everyone, Yolanda Feblis here, local Syracuse Zumba Instructor, board certified health coach. I am a dancing nutrition / health coach. So today I am going to be showing you a recipe that I dearly love. It is from one of my most favorite raw chefs. Her name is Annie Pio. I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. She has many raw cookbooks. It's not really cooking because it's raw food you don't cook. And it's really good. This recipe that I'm going to show you is not in this particular cookbook, but it's a recipe that I found online of hers that I love so much, and I've brought it to different gatherings and people really like it. The awesome thing about it, it's a dessert that's good for you, that you can even eat it for breakfast, what I call Nutrilicious. Nutritious and delicious comes together. We get Nutrilicious. So you can eat it for breakfast because it has tons of nutrients that you get from the fruits, and I'm going to show you what the ingredients are. And what are we making? We're making raw apple pie. Raw apple pie is great for the summer because you don't have to bake in the kitchen. This recipe is awesome because there's no added sugars. All the sweeteners are natural. It comes from the fruit. And I'll show you what's in it so you can see what's going on here. So the ingredients that you're going to need for this recipe will be cinnamon, sea salt, apples, an orange, we have dates here, and almonds, and that is it. That is all that is going into that raw apple pie, and when all of that comes together, it makes extreme deliciousness in your mouth. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing that you're going to have to do is you will need a pie plate. I have a glass one here. So in normal baking, when you bake an apple pie, you have to put some sort of oil or lubricant on the bottom of this pie pan to make sure that the flour or the dough doesn't stick. In this case, since we're not working with those kind of ingredients, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grind up some almonds, and that's going to serve as the barrier between the actual pie crust and the pie plate so it doesn't get sticky. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to measure out about half a cup of raw almonds. I use raw because whenever you roast nuts, a lot of times the heat causes the nuts to become rancid, and then you lose the nutrients, and sometimes it can be carcinogenic. So, I mean, it's not always bad to roast nuts, but eat them as raw as much as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and put half a cup in here. This is my Vitamix. If you have a regular blender or a food processor is going to work better than a blender, but my Vitamix is amazing and can blend anything, which is why I'm using this over the food processor. So we're going to go ahead and blend this into a fine powder. And that doesn't take long. Ground my almonds, raw almonds, into a fine powder. And this took the Vitamix like 1 second to do it because it's super powerful. And so I'm just going to go ahead and take all of the ground almonds and throw it in here into my pie plate. And you want to make sure that it is ground fine because you're not really eating this part. This is just This is just acting as the barrier between the sticky pie crust that we're about to make. So what we have to do now is we're going to take the dates. These are medjool dates that I have here, and I already pitted them. And pitted just means that I took out the pits out of them. Just open them up. They're very soft. Take out the pits. And we're going to use that and mix it with some raw almonds. This is 1 cup. And we're going to put about half a cup of raw almonds, and we're going to mix them together in the food processor, which I had the Vitamix before, but I'm changing it to the food processor because this is much better for this part of it. And in Annie Pio's recipe, she actually uses 2 cups of dates to 2 cups of almonds, but I don't like doing it that way because the crust is really, really thick, and I like a super thin crust. So if you want a regular crust, I recommend following hers, but if you want a thin crust, then do it this way. So I'm going to throw in the almonds first. I'm going to measure out half a cup. I'm going to throw it into the food processor. I'm going to throw the dates in there with it. And we're just going to let it blend. Key thing to making this crust is you want to make sure you do not blend it until it is a really big sticky ball of paste, because if you do, your crust is going to be gross. You want it to have some sort of chunkiness to it. You want the almonds to be a little chunky, not into this fine powder that we made here. So it's got to have some thickness to it. It can't be a complete ball of paste, okay? Remember that. Otherwise, you won't like the crust. Okay, so here we go. Okay, that looks good. As you can see, it's starting to ball up a little bit, like so. This is a good consistency. Those almonds they're small, but if you compare it to the almonds here, you notice a big difference. So this we don't want. This we want. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the food processor. Unplug it. I'm going to throw everything onto my cutting board here. And I'm going to shape this into a ball with my hands. Remember, in raw foods, use your hands a lot so you have nice clean hands. Alright, so you can see here I have a ball that I've formed with the dates and the almonds, which you can still see the chunks of it. So the easiest thing to do now is flatten it out as much as you can before you put it into the pan. So I'm going to shape this into kind of like a pizza crust. And the reason why I do it this way is because if you pre-shape it before you put it in the pan, it's a lot easier to flatten it out versus because you have all that ground up almond in there. So I have a pretty good base to start with, so I'm going to go ahead and put this inside my pan. And now, this is the fun part. It's kind of therapeutic. You're going to go ahead and flatten this out until you cover the entire pan. And your hands are going to get sticky. That's okay. And just keep flattening out. I finally finished making my pie crust. It took a little bit of elbow grease there because I like the thin crust, but it's totally worth it for me. So as you can see here, you can still see chunks of the almonds, which is really good, and on the bottom you will have the ground flour on here. Now, just remember, if you are making the thin crust, you're going to have to put a little more extra work into it, and you might need to get your fingers wet to help spread it out more, but if you don't, and you follow the regular recipe, 2 cups dates, 2 cups almonds, you'll be fine. Now, one key ingredient that I forgot that makes it extra delicious is to add sea salt to it. If you do my thin crust ratio, you want to do a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, and the only reason it's not in there is because I forgot. But if you do Annie Pio's exact recipe, 2 cups dates, 2 cups almonds, you want to do 1 teaspoon of sea salt. So now at this point, what I like to do is make the crust look extra pretty. So I do these little designs where you just, I mean, you could do whatever you want, but I like to add little indentations, which makes it, you know, a little prettier. You want your food to look pretty. The more pretty it looks, the more delicious it is. So I think. Take a look at it, just indented it a little bit. And do whatever you want. You don't have to do that. I just like it to look extra pretty, but if it's too much for you, don't do it. So you can, at this point, put it in the refrigerator to help solidify the crust a little bit more, or you can just leave it out until you have the rest of your ingredients to put in there. Now, the amazing thing about this pie crust is you can eat it just the way it is. It is delicious. But I'm not going to do that. We put this to the side. And now we're going to make our syrup. The syrup is going to be made out of dates and orange and water, and that is it. And the reason why we make the syrup is it's going to coat the apples that we're going to slice in a few minutes. So I took 1/2 cup of dates. I'm going to throw it into my Vitamix, and yes, I did have the food processor before. I'm switching in between both, but you can work with one or the other. And the reason why I chose the Vitamix for this is because you see my orange here? I am going to peel it, but I don't have to if I don't want to. But I'm going to show you because you are going to have to peel it if you don't have a Vitamix. So the amazing thing about the Vitamix, though, is after I peel this, I'm going to throw this whole orange in there. It could have seeds in it, probably. It does. And it doesn't matter because Vitamix here is going to chop it all up into a nice little syrup, which is amazing. So I'm going to peel this away, and then I'm just going to throw the whole thing in there. If you have a regular blender or food processor, you might want to take this orange apart and break it up into segments to help your blender blend it better, but we got to bite it here, so we're going to throw that in. And I'm going to add a little bit to get a little more liquidy. I'm going to throw this into my little garbage bowl right there. And we're going to blend this until it is nice and silky. Okay, so I just finished making my syrup. And you want to make sure that you can't really see any of the dates anymore. You want this to be very creamy and syrupy. If you don't want it too liquidy, because this does need to be thick because it's going to cling to the apples. If it's too liquidy, it's going to ruin your pie crust. It's going to ruin the entire pie. So this consistency is pretty good. If you can see here, I don't know if you can tell. So it's quite thick, and we're going to use this to coat the apples. This is what's going to help bring out the essence of the apples, the apple sweetness. This is imperative for the apple pie, so don't skip this step. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to take these apples and we are going to chop them into thin slices. Now, one way of doing it, and you see I still got almond stuff all over my cutting board, but I don't really care. If it bothers you, clean it up. One thing you can do is chop the apples really thin, like so. You want nice thin slices. You can do it that way, or you can use one of my most favorite kitchen tools ever. It's called the mandolin, and with this bad boy, it's even easier. I take my little apple slice here, and I simply bring it across like so, and it slices it. See how awesome that is? So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the rest of my apples. I have 5 apples here, and you're going to use any kind of apple that's sweet, like a Gala apple, Fuji apple. I use Honeycrisp before. It's really delicious. You don't want to use Granny Smith or any of those more sour apples that you would use for a typical apple pie. So in this case, you use naturally sweet apples that you would eat raw. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to I finished peeling all my apples, and let me tell you, my mandolin here saved me a lot of time. If I did not have this bad boy, I would be chopping still, which is okay. If you don't have one, that's fine. It's get a little workout while doing it, but I have all of my 5 apples all chopped up, and you notice that they are thin and crispy. Delicious. They smell good too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to measure out cinnamon. This recipe calls out for 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, which seems like a lot, and it is, but it's very delicious. So I'm going to measure that out. And I used organic apples for this recipe because apples is one of those produce or vegetable or fruits that you find in the supermarket that has an extremely high pesticide load. And if you ever seen the Dirty Dozen that was put out by the Environmental Working Group, they're a they're a nonprofit, and they do studies on different things like what fruits and vegetables have the most pesticides and which ones you want to stay away from and which ones that you can skip over the organic if you want to save money. They call it the Clean 15, and then there's the Dirty Dozen. The Dirty Dozen are the ones that you want to avoid and make sure you buy organic. And apples is one of them, so I always, no matter what, buy organic apples. So these are organic Gala apples, and then I have organic cinnamon as well. Cinnamon is really good for stabilizing blood sugar levels. Apples have tons of fiber. So this is a dessert that's actually good for you. I have eaten it for breakfast. It's really good, very hearty. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour my syrup on top of this, and I'm going to mix all of the syrup, cinnamon, and the apples together. And that's our filling. When you bake apple pie, which I've actually never really baked apple pie, I've only eaten apple pie, I know that you have to add sugar and all that other good stuff to it and bake it. So when you keep this recipe raw, you're maintaining all the enzymes and all the nutrients, and you get the benefit of that. And in a typical apple pie, you won't have really fiber. All of that's been taken out because you're using white flour, which is hard for the body to digest, and it brings your blood sugar levels up. And this recipe is going to help stabilize your blood sugar levels because it has fat, it has protein, it has fiber from the almonds, the dates, and the apples. And then you got vitamin C from the orange. I mean, where are you going to find that in any regular apple pie? And this is healthy. This is something that you can eat without hating yourself right after you eat it, or saying that you're fat to yourself. This is actually something that's good for you. So I'm going to go ahead and mix all of this together. You'd be amazed how orange, an entire orange, dates and water makes such a delicious, yummy syrup. I mean, it makes the apples even sweeter, and there's no added sugars that you would find with the regular apple pie. There's just a little more elbow grease involved in the raw apple pie recipe. So there's some apples there that need some more leavened. And that looks good. And you can eat this right now. This is edible as is. That's yummy. It's so yummy. You can eat this pie in parts. You can eat the crust before you even get to this part. You can eat this part. I mean, it's yummy. So, very cinnamon too. If you don't like cinnamon as much, you want to reduce the cinnamon. Now, all you do is put this in here. Now, if you care about the appearance, you can carefully lay the apple slices in here, which I have done before. What I like to do is I like to fill most of it up, and then towards the end, you know, make a nice little presentation. So you're going to fill all the little nooks and crannies of this crust with the apple filling. And actually, in this case, I think I'm just going to throw it all in there, not really caring about the appearance. I'm going to show you an example of how you can make it look nice. So you just take the apples and you lay it down right next to each other. I can get some slices going here, like this, and then you keep going around like that until you have a nice little design going on. And I'm going to come back and show you what it can. I finally laid out all the apples, and I actually had some extra because I had really big apples. So if you're doing my thinned out pie crust recipe, you might want to do 4 apples instead of 5, especially if they're ginormous like I had. So I made a nice little presentation. Like I said, if you follow Annie Pio's recipe exactly, there would be raisins in here, and she puts craisins on the top to help with the presentation, which you can completely do, but you don't have to put the apples out like this and put them in a nice fashion. But if you're going to introduce this recipe to someone who's never had raw treats before, you want to make it as pretty as possible to convince them that it is actually delicious. And just for yourself, it's nice to look at. So we're going to go ahead and try this. I'm going to eat this in front of you. But normally you would put this in the refrigerator for at least an hour just to help everything sort of solidify. You can keep this in the fridge for up to 2 days and it will still taste really good. The longer you keep it in the refrigerator, the softer the apples are going to become. So it's going to mimic that sort of soft apple texture that you get with real apple pie, or not real, with cooked apple, baked apple pie. But this is more real than the baked one. This is all maintained the nutrition. So with this one, you do want to keep it in the fridge for about an hour to help it get just harder in texture with the pie crust. But since I'm showing you the recipe, I'm going to eat in front of you so you can see what it looks like when we start. I'm just going to cut a little section. That's the thing about raw pie crust, it doesn't stay exactly. It's a lot of free, it's free roaming. And as you notice, there's no top to it as you would have in a regular pie. But I've known people who have made raw pies and they do make a crust for it. It takes a lot more work. I personally don't prefer it because it's just, the crust can be very dense. So I don't like that on the top of the pie. I like to keep it as light as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a plate. Be with you in 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and grab this now. I don't have a pie server, which would be so much nicer to work with right now. And actually, I'm going to make sure you cut this really well. Otherwise it's going to fall apart on you. That's good. Help it out. So, because it's not refrigerated yet, it's not completely solidified as of yet, so it's a little floppy at this point. But you can see the different layers of apples and bloop, it's falling apart, but that's okay. So this is what it's going to look like. And you see my crust is extremely thin because I do not like that thick crust. It's just way too much for me. So I'm going to go ahead and bite into it. When you do let this solidify, you're going to find that that crust actually holds together like this, and you're not going to have the floppy effect like so. It's all good because I'm going to eat it. It's all going to go down. So I'm going to go ahead and try some. That's good. And I'm not saying it just because I made it. It really is good. This is yummy. And I feel good about myself right now. If I was eating a regular apple pie, I would tell myself mean things. But right now, I say, Yolanda, good for you. Doing something good for your body. So go ahead and try this recipe. Let me know what you think about it. And if you do any new additions or you get creative and add something to it or take it away, I'd love to hear about it. If you want more recipes and ideas and strategies like this, go ahead and go to ZumbaSyracuse.com and you can get more information like this and also maybe attend a Zumba class. So thanks for watching. See y'all later.